picky. All right. Welcome, everybody, to May's episode of Ancestry Special Interest Group. This week, we are doing vital records. But before that, I just kind of want to walk through. We're going to go through some of the new collections, and we're going to go through some of the updated collections first. So let me rearrange my screens here a little bit so I can share. Oh, oh, we got a lag going on here. Don't need this tab. Change it. Go. All right. Oh, this could be an interesting day. I got was working fine earlier, and now we're slowing down. So, okay, there we go. Move my control bar off of my. I don't think you guys can see that, can you? The little control bar.
No, not seeing your screen.
Yeah, Zoom is telling me that it's coming up, so we'll see what's going on here. I'm gonna close some apps here so I can get some more bandwidth. The downside of the end of the school year is I got neighborhood kids that are probably working on end of the year projects. All right. There, can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Perfect, thank you. All right, so let's get started with some new collections. And as you guys know, I like to get to that list through this panel here on the right side. I come down to tools and resources and new and updated collections. So that gives me this quick list that is similar to if you go to the card catalog and you put it in date added order and limit it to this comes up by default because I'm in the United States as by United States. So we're going to take a look today at the Washington. I'm going to start here with the Washington District of Columbia U.S. Bank transfers. And the interesting thing about this collection is it's a little bit of everything. Click over here. And you can see just as a reminder of where this comes from, it's from the DC Public Library. It's making this available to Ancestry. And it is a browsable. And one of the things that you can do when you get into any collection, and just kind of a reminder about search tricks, is if you look at this browse list, and let's say that you're looking for something in a specific year and your year isn't in this list, then it's not in the collection. So you might just not even bother trying to search. And then again, sometimes it doesn't hurt. So you guys know I've got coffins on the East Coast, so we use coffin a lot as my search surname. And you can see there's quite a few. Now, these are land transfers, so these are based on sales date. And this top one here kind of intrigues me, Isabel. We're going to go ahead and look at this record. So the difference there on that tab is the image will, if you click on the image button, it will take you straight to the image. The record will show you this, which is the index record that they have, and it shows you the list of the names of the people that are on this record. Isabel said they sold it in February of 1903. Her role was seller, and it's in the title of the land transfer books. But if we look at the book, we're going to go ahead and look at the image. I can zoom in right here. And here's Isabella right here. And you can see I've got this February 25, 1903, and they just started writing in here all kinds of descriptions. So the square, they tell you the square south of square 516 of 10. I don't know whether that's actually the lot or the number because you can't quite tell. The consideration looks like it was $10. I'm a little fuzzy on whether that's accurate. And there's some description here. First partners are the only heirs of Sophia A. Parker, devisee of George S. Parker, decedent. Um, beginning, and then they give a description of the land. Beginning on Mass Avenue at Southeast, something, hence, and you guys know how those land records read. But it gives a fairly decent description. But now we know this sale is because the descendants of Sophia Parker, who are the listed sellers here. So now if Isabel was, my relative, I've got either siblings or nieces and nephews of hers, or I've got more information here. And they sold it to, um, looks like a couple because they was sold as joint tenants. So this is kind of gives you some really good information, and you get a little more insight because maybe you want to go look for Sophia Parker. Maybe you want to go look for um, George S. Parker. Would make you believe that somewhere along these lines, these people are related to Parkers. So, get some tips in that. But you can see they're handwritten ledgers, and you can page back and forth between them like you can always do. So this is the other side of the page, other people. You can see here number 393 is first party is the sole heir at law of Manning F. Force. So you can kind of get a little bit of information of what's going on with these land transfers. Some of them are just straight sale of property, but some of them looks like they're settling an estate. So that's kind of cool. So that's if you've got family that might have owned or might have bought and sold property in Washington, D.C., that could be kind of a fun thing to do. Now, the next one I want to take a look at is this New Hampshire. I'm going to open a new tab. American Legion applications, and this is from about when the American Legion started because it was post World War I, and this is through 1975. Now, this is in New Hampshire, and you can see the collection is made up of auxiliary transmittals based on some of these are the auxiliary unit numbers, but you can see here's the membership applications, kind of an interesting, kind of gives you a sense of what you might find here. And I'm going to look up here. This one. And the one I'm going to take a peek at is this one from 1895. So it says Rose A. Mayer. And we open this up. And we look at this application, Rose A. Mayer, male. And this is military service in 1917. So I'm going to go look at the image here. And these are two-sided, so I'm going to go back to the front page. And I can look in here and I can drill in on this. This is the CP Britain, Unit 57 of New Hampshire. The application is for Patricia M. Ayer. So this is post 57. And Patricia May Ayer, and it lists her parents as Ross and Nellie Hall Ayer. And she's got her signature there. So this is the index is wrong because it listed the record for Rose, and it's really Ross. But the other thing that's interesting about these is you get the applicant's name, you get parents, the date of the application, you get her birth date and where for the applicant. And then on the back side, which is the page that the index I picked, says Ross Ayer. And this is his service record, personal history. So we have his birth date and place, his parents with his mom's maiden name, and his wife's name, and the date he mustered in 1917, and the date he mustered out in 1919. And other optional comments. What was his promotion? Where was he hospitalized in France? So this Ross guy is your family member. These applications could give you some really interesting information. Now, knowing that this collection is specific to New Hampshire, but you notice he was born in Massachusetts, and his his family, Patricia must have been, I'm going to go back back a page, was applying to this unit. Um, so they must have moved there, or she was living there. She was born in New Hampshire, so the family must have ended up in New Hampshire somewhere along the way. So that's kind of interesting, information there. But I'm going to do something that we talk about a lot is I'm going to update this index record. I'm going to update with this add or update the index, and I'm going to choose the name, and I'm going to choose the reason as being a transcription error, and the given name is Ross. So I'm going to update Rose to Ross, and I'm just going to submit that as an alternative. And once Ancestry processes this, um, and it just says, I did it today. So that's just, what'll happen is this name field will get square brackets on it with Ross A. Ayer listed as an alternative name because was a transcription error. So that'll show up it'll take Ancestry some time to process through it. But that's how you find those, you're reviewing the product, the document that you have, or and you look at it and you can say, oh, sometimes I've had problems where the line above on a census has a dangling G or a Y, and they've overlaid the letters below and they get kind of convoluted. So it's a transcription error, and I just report it and then they'll fix it. So kind of fun that we can do that. Help Ancestry keep their indexes correct, and it'll get indexed under both names for a while till they do a formal correction on the indexing. Okay, now the next thing I want to take a peek at is these Hawaii certificates of identity from 1908 to 1993, or 1943. I'm going to open that in a new tab. Let that load. One of the things that I discovered with these is they aren't what you think they are. And I don't know, we're going to talk about it, why they are in a collection titled as Hawaii. And I wanted to go back because once I started looking at it, you can see certificates of identification. There's a browse. It says unable to load the browse. So that's on my side. This might be browsable in a later time, but you can scroll down here and it says, this is a collection that contains certificates of identification of people of Chinese descent who lived in or traveled to the U.S. and were issued at ports within the continental U.S., red letters, and Hawaii in green color. So for some reason, they've identified this. It says beginning in 1908, Hawaii required these identifications. So that's kind of the source of this, but you'll notice that it's also the duplicate certificates, San Francisco duplicates. So you can see there's a lot of information here, and we're going to take a look at a couple of them. And I'm just going to do a search on Smith. Not that, knowing that this is a Chinese index, for some reason, there's this record for Francis. So we're going to take a look at this record for Francis. And I look at this image and I'm like, oh, this is all messed up. So let's go ahead and open up this image. Because this card is a bit weird. So you can see here's a file number 2 something. Department of Justice, Immigration and Naturalization. But here's Francis Smith on this side. But it's been all scratched out. So I'm curious what the next record looks like. So I'm going to go to the next record. And now I'm into um, identification information for this collection. Most of them look like this. And I'm just going to zoom in here a little bit. Here's the name, Jin Gui Sik, age 19. We got height, occupation, student at San Francisco, California, son of native, um, and I think this says parole demo, and gives an identification number. He arrived SS China on July 24th, 1916. And then it has physical marks. And so this has face is pocked. And it was issued at the Port of San Francisco on August 16th. So the bulk of this collection, and here's the information, says issued in conformity with the Rule 19 of the Chinese Rules of the Bureau of Immigration, Department of Labor. So that's the law that they are including. But you can see as you go through here, this is another student. He's a merchant's son, parole evidence, SS China, small pit on the outer corner of left and center of forehead. And these descriptions are, in today's world, would be considered pretty demeaning, but it is what it is. So if you've got family that would have immigrated from China, this collection may be where you want to go. Don't pay attention to the fact that it says Hawaii, because you notice he's in San Jose, California. And this was issued through the Port of San Francisco. So I'm a little confused on why Ancestry has titled this collection as Hawaii. But you notice these are all red colored, which meant they arrived in continental US. Remember that description in the collection label, as opposed to green ones. And I kind of flipped through here for quite a while, and I never did find any green ones. So I don't know how that works, but some of them are older. This one is age 9. You can jump in. I did a search on Jones and I found some young men that must have been in college age. Nice attire, suits with collars, and for this time period, they were going to school at Berkeley or they were going to school in San Francisco. So it's that kind of a thing. But I just thought it was kind of an interesting that the name of the collection doesn't really recognize what the contents of the collection is. So sometimes if you're looking for something, you might go ahead and give it a try just to see. Okay. Any questions about the new stuff we've looked at today so far? Okay. So let's move on to the updated collections. And I did want to just grab this updated one right here. usnewspapers.com birth index. So as you guys know, Ancestry owns newspapers.com, and they've been working with their AI to read all the pages and create these indexes that are searchable on Ancestry with your regular subscription, and even the free guest will let you peruse these index collections. So you can't necessarily look at the details if you don't have either an all access or a specific newspapers.com collection subscription. But it does let you take a peek at what's been added. So you can see this is through 2005. And my cancers are all based here in Iowa. So I've got 1708. So I'm going to narrow down this Katzer. I did a Katzer surname list, and I'm going to narrow it down to Iowa. So I'm going to use the filters on the left side here. I click on North America. I click on the US. It's going to open up by state. I don't see Iowa, so I'm going to say show me more. And there's Iowa. So it says there's 29 Iowa birth announcements in the collection. So I can look here, and as you can hover over these, My family is in Grundy County. So I'm not kind of seeing anybody here, but this little note says there's some additional values there. Let's take a peek at that one. So in 1993, this birth announcement was published in the Des Moines Register. The parents are Ann Katzer Gorbert. They've put a different, somebody has suggested additional information. You can see dad's name is John Gorbert with a dash. Somebody's added that there. And so you don't know too much. It just says male, born in 1993. And since I have an all access membership, so I can jump over and sign into newspapers.com and actually look at that record. So that's kind of the beauty of some of these indexes that are made available by Ancestry if you have the right. Maybe this wasn't so smart anyway. And there's sometimes there are offerings for newspapers.com access for like a long weekend. There might be access made available for Mother's Day. Some of the holidays, they tend to offer access to some of the other services that Ancestry owns. So you can see here, we're now looking at the page, the Des Moines Register, September 8th, page 29. And right here we can see that Anne and John gave birth to a son on Monday. And you now know he was born at Iowa Lutheran Hospital. And so you kind of have a little bit more information than what was in the index record, but not a lot. So you can still move forward with your research on that part. But you can see the name is all put together. Oh, and notice that the hyphen that was captured in the indexing is because John's last name is split in the record. So his name didn't really have a hyphen in it. It was just the way the AI captured it. So his name was Gorbert, and mom has hyphenated her surname, and dad's just got truncated because of the column size. So you only have to, the advantage of looking at the original document, its source, is that you can say, oh, that hyphen shouldn't really be there. So if we go back to the record itself, see here, somebody has made a correction with the hyphen in it. And, we could go through and make another suggestion that the hyphen was added by AI and it's not correct. But I don't know the family, so I'm not going to touch it from that perspective. So that's the kind of stuff that you find and when you're looking at the indexing, you're going to get whatever information was made available. So you don't have the actual birth date. So it was published on the 8th. You could go back and look and see what day of the week that was, and then know he was born on Monday, and then you could calculate his actual birth date. So let's take a quick peek at this other one here. And you'll notice while I'm going through that it said there were 29, but the Katzers run out and there's another spelling below that, so there aren't really 29. So here's another one. Urban Katzer is highlighted as a hyperlink. And if I click on urban, what do I get? Do I get the father's record or do I get a different record for within the index? So here you can see that 1964, male, residence, publication date, child is a Katzer. So you can kind of see this index is like, well, yeah, Mr. is a male, but is the child a male? And that's because we're looking at dad's link within the hyperlink within the presentation. So it's not, you just have to kind of pay attention and be careful with it when you do those things. So close that out. And I want to take a look at, oops, recently updated. Let's go ahead to another one, this Find a Grave. Now, most of you probably know that Ancestry also owns Find a Grave. They have not come in and made significant changes with that service. So they have kind of they've added their power of their computers and their AI to create these indexes based on the Find a Grave record. And you can see here this collection is provided by Find a Grave. So we're going to just do another search on Katzer because I know Katzers that died in Iowa. And you can see here we've got birth dates and death dates and burial places. This is information that's stored on the memorial at on Find a Grave. And because I'm looking for somebody specific, let's say let's look for my dad. I can go to North America. I can filter by USA. Again, Iowa doesn't appear in the top. You'll notice these are in descending order by number of matches. And here's Iowa. So I can click on Iowa and it'll take that big long list and narrow it down to just the area that I want to look at. So even though I'm looking at an index on Ancestry for Find a Grave, I'm using Ancestry search options to narrow it down to find the records that I want. So you can see here's my dad. And let's go ahead and look at his record. And you can see that I've saved this record to my tree. The information that's here, does it have a bio? I always look for this on Find a Grave because then I know that there's a write-up or somebody's copied the obituary, or maybe they've transcribed the information on the headstone. But you'll notice that if I click on his dad, I'm going to go ahead and open in a new tab there. It will bring me up to his dad's memorial. So this is a little different than the newspapers.com. These hyperlinks, because Find a Grave also has his parents listed, you can see that, and his parents. And to be fair, all these people are buried in the same cemetery, so it makes it really nice. But you can quickly navigate through those people from Ancestry. You can attach them to your tree from here, but you can also do that jump over to look at what information is actually stored on Find a Grave. But these hyperlinks do take you to their memorial page information from within Find a Grave. So you've got this family cluster that someone who's managing that memorial on Find a Grave has said these people are all related. And as you open those up, you know how those are. You can see parents that are attached to the decedent or the burial record, as well as siblings and spouses and children. And you can kind of navigate through that whole family group to say, is this real? Because it isn't documentation. It's somebody that owns the memorial said, here's the parents and they've attached them. And here's the spouse or spouses and they've attached them. And so you have to be kind of careful because I have found people that have been connected badly. They got a relative, but they attached it to the wrong relationship. And so you can submit fixes on Find a Grave as well. So just wanted you to know that this behavior on Find a Grave index does change as you click on the hyperlinks and you get to the right people. And you can see what I did on that was I right click and say open in a new tab. So here's my dad's tab. Here's his dad's tab. And if I want to go to grandma's tab, I can just say open in a new tab and it will bring me to my grandma's grave memorial. And they share a headstone. So they have the same headstone picture. And you can see her parents are listed here, where on my grandpa's, his parents are listed. So it's kind of a nice way to step into a family, try to figure out relationships, especially if you're trying to figure out, is the obituary correct? Because the person involved didn't write the obituaries. So you kind of have that going on is kind of a nice way to navigate. Ancestry periodically, I don't want to say it's monthly, but they regularly update all of these indexes from these other services. So that includes newspapers.com, Find a Grave, Fold 3 are the big three collections that they own, and they are always updating their indexing as new records get added to those collections. So these indexes do get updated periodically, and as you noticed, they got updated here. Newspapers.com birth index got updated May 1st. Find a Grave got updated on 4/27. You could go back in time and see, and then they do even more detailed ones. So if you look down through here, you can see here's Missouri, newspapers.com stories and event index. So while these two that we looked at so far today are the national, the US full list, and I filtered down to Iowa, I could just wait until they publish some of these state-specific newspaper.com's collections, okay, because they are indexed that way as well. Okay, and the last one I want to take a peek at is the right here. And the only reason I don't have any people in Brooklyn, but I want to look at this Brooklyn one because just as a reminder, when you see these collections that start with the word web, just a reminder that the data is not being stored on Ancestry. They have a license with this provider to provide the index option. You can see this data is published by the Greenwood Historical Fund, which is the name of the cemetery. And you can see here, this is a web search option. And this is in New York. And we're going to look at coffins again. And so Ancestry has an agreement with the holders of the database. And so I can open up the database from within Ancestry and look at some of these people to say, oh, that could be my family. And I'm going to look at this record. So you can see all I have is an index record. It says it's a burial index. But if I want to, I can go over here and go straight to their burial search. And you can see I don't have a back button, so I just click on it. These with this globe with this arrow tell you you're leaving Ancestry, and they give you this little information. To discover more, we found this record. It's located outside of Ancestry, and it will open in a new tab automatically. So when you click on these, you don't know what you're going to get. I have used some of these where you land on the actual database record. I have used these where you land within the database. See, here we go. We're on the burial search. So I'm giving access into it. We know we were looking at Agnes often, and that's all I'm going to give them. And I'm just going to do a search because I know the record is there because I found it on Ancestry. And I get this, you get this information. Here's this information here, one record. I get a lot number and a section number and a little more. And if I get a grave. I don't know what that's supposed to be. And if I've read through this and I don't know. But here's the interesting thing about this cemetery, and they do some interesting things. View the map showing the section number. So she's in section 49. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And we're going to get opened into a PDF. It says lot owner's map. It says you can access the PDF of this map with this link. And they have a clicker for our Alive at map. So I had already clicked, and this gives me this PDF link to this cemetery map. And I'm now over in the Greenwood Cemetery site. I wish every cemetery would do this because this is really nicely done. So here's all the streets within this cemetery. I'm going to pull down here. They have a few little ponds. Like every cemetery, you got to follow a map to find what you're looking for. And they show you a little picture of the street Sunset Park entrance right there. And then you can see here on the map, she was in section, let's see, section 49. So I can look in this map here. Section 49 is J10. We use our map skills, J10, and right there's section 49. So you can easily, if you were going to go visit your family that was in the cemetery, it would be really easy to find them. So I just wanted to kind of demonstrate when you get these web collections, you kind of get into give it a try, see what you get. I've gotten some that I've gotten into their database search and I can't find the person, even though Ancestry says they're there. I couldn't find them. So there's that. All right, any questions about the collections we've taken a look at today so far? Cool. In the handout I gave you, what's the upcoming classes? Um, I just wanted to say that there's a little note there about a family tree maker Midwest tour that has not been officially announced by IGS. We are co-sponsoring that. It's coming up in June. If you're interested in the software for family tree maker, we're going to have that event going on at IGS, the conference center. So, but take a look. We've got some cool stuff coming up. Okay, let's go ahead and move into today's topic of vital records. So we're going to be back here on the home page, and we're going to search in the drop down for vital records, which they have listed as birth, marriage, and death records. So we're going to go ahead and click on that. And, as genealogists, these are kind of those, love to have these records for everybody in our tree. And we know that there are some reasons why you may not find them, but Ancestry tries really, really hard to give us access to the collection information that they have. So you can see here that this is the broad collection. I get a general search option. They give you some search tips down here at the bottom, or I can click over here and narrow it down by category. So if I'm looking for specifically birth, christening, or baptismal records, I could click on that. They have a separate collection for marriage and divorce, and they have a separate, not a collection, they have a separate category for death, burial, cemeteries, and obituaries. And then they give you some other stuff that's available within the card catalog. Okay, so just so you know, there's an awful lot of stuff that they have available to us from here. So I'm going to go ahead and just, let's see, I want to make sure I cover everything. If we're going to go ahead and I'm going to say, open the new tab to view in the card catalog. This is going to bring me to the card catalog, and you'll notice that we're in the birth, marriage, and death category. And here's another way to skinny it down or narrow it down. And you can see that I've hovered over this first one and I get this little pop-up that says how long, these are newspapers.com birth index for UK and Ireland. You can see that these were new within the last month or so. So the new tabs for this, just a reminder, this new or updated tab will stay here for 90 days. You can see the default sort is by date added. Let's say you want to say, I want to look at the biggest record count collection I can see. And you can see it's these big index collections that are huge. The obituary collection was recently updated. And we've just looked at these two today. So you can see that by the number of records that they have in them. You can expand the filter out here on this site and narrow it down to a location. So if I want to say US, I can get all of those foreign collections out, and it narrows it down to 16, 17 number of collections. And you can still use your title searches and your keyword searches here as well to narrow it down to get to the collection where you think you might find the person you're looking for. You'll notice in the card catalog view, there is not a search option. The search option doesn't occur until you get to the collection itself. So back here, they give us a search option at the category level, but we haven't narrowed it down at all from here. So you could do an international search from here if you wanted to. And these are just, you know how it is with vital records. The spellings could be different. I gave you the rules in the handout for the wild cards. And remember trying, if you've been doing genealogy for a while, I'm sure you've got a list of alternative spellings of how you have found your family spelled in different collections over the years. And so you've got that other way to add different spellings into it. So one of the things that we can do on the card catalog, though, is we can do this filtering search and keywords. Now, just a reminder, any word you put into the title field has to actually be in the name of the collection. So if I put Iowa in the title and say search, I'm going to get collections that have the word Iowa. This one didn't follow the rules, but they have the word Iowa in the title of the collection. If I change that and I put it in the keyword, it can be Iowa is in the description of the collection. It could be in the records in the collection. So we're going to go from 4 under title to 11 in keywords. And you'll notice what changes here. We have the Hinshaw X index of selected Quaker records must have an Iowa reference in them, the Michigan Bible records and genealogy notes. So you can see here that it's a much broader view. You'll notice all of these collections are tagged as part of the birth, baptism, and christening category. So even though these are genealogy books for a family name, they have been tagged with this collection tag, and so they show up when you do this search or this filter. Okay. And so it's kind of one of those, if you really are curious, you can open these up and you can see Iowa has 6. We've got 11 collections came back, but based on the collection here, I could click on this Iowa filter and it narrowed it down even farther. And I get one that's Monroe County. So that's kind of an interesting piece of, remember that Ancestry has, when you do by location, they narrow it down by collection type. But you can do a search now from here. This says search the entire baptismal collection. So if I click on search here, it's going to bring me up a search option. And it's not, now I'm no longer limited to my filter. I'm now back to, at the category level, I can do a search, and this will be true for the marriage and divorce category, as well as the death, burials, obituaries category as well. But you can see you can do a search from here, and it's a category search, not a collection search. So if you wanted to just do a search, I would suggest if you do a search on births and baptisms, you can give it a year or you can give it a year range. And let's just say we want to do 1915 to, so 40 years there. So this is going to go out and it's going to do that search. It's going to take a little while for the algorithm to search through all the collections that have that category code. And it's just going to start presenting them to me because I didn't, and you can see now here's all the collections that it returned a result for, right, are listed here. So if I wanted to, I can switch this from, this is the standard name search reaction, but if I wanted to, I could turn this on, browse by collection, which I see this list here, but maybe I want to see how many people are in each collection, which I have a count over here, right? But this gives me the presentation this way. It gives me that list. You can see I have 5 more pages of 20 on a page. I can update this to 50, cut my number of pages in half. But now I'm not, instead of looking at the actual record, I'm looking at the collections where I might want to narrow down my search. Where if I undo this, I'm going to get back to the person result because that was my search. My search was in a person search. And so this will return me back to the person search piece here. Now, if I had put in a first name, I could then narrow that down. I can go in here and this is true for all of these category searches. I could say, I want an M. I don't want, I don't, I don't remember how she spelled her name, so I'm just going to put in a first letter. So I'm going to now update the search results for just cancers that had a first name that starts with M. And you can see M is in the middle name here. So it still meets the search criteria, but I have way fewer than I had before. So that's kind of when you're searching through multiple collections, it's kind of important to kind of have a strategy of how you're going to attack that because you're going to get different results all the time from that perspective. Now, the other thing that I wanted to point out is if you're looking for somebody in a specific state, there's kind of a way to do that. And if you go to search drop all collections. Now this is the standard. We covered this a couple months ago, the search, mastering search on Ancestry. And this is the all collections basic search option that Ancestry gives us. So if we're not using the card catalog per se, we're using a generic search and they're going to only go through certain pieces. But one of the things I want to remind you of is that down here at the bottom, there is this map that you can pick. And if you're not looking for North America or the US, that's the default. You can switch it here. But you'll see that if I hover over Iowa, I have 191 collections. If I hover over Iowa here, I'm going to get a little different response. And I just want you guys to be aware of that because it can be helpful. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the map and it's going to restore me. You'll notice I'm in an inset here. And I now have the first 25 of the 191. And they're basically in size order there. You can see that from there. And I can tab through those 191 collections that have Iowa records in them. So these aren't Iowa named. They're not in the title, but they have Iowa records that contain Iowa records, okay? But you'll notice that there's this little option here, view all research options. I'm going to go ahead and open that in a new tab. And I'm going to close this little box because that opened up as an inset window. And I'm going to click on Iowa down here. And you notice my tab names are the same. So when I go from, this was the Iowa listed in the list, and this was Iowa Research Records, it's the exact same place. Okay, so either way, you can get to this from here. Now, the advantage of using this, particularly on states that you're not necessarily familiar with, is here's the list of the collections by category, and you can see you can expand each one, but you can take a quick peek at Iowa history, some interesting facts, and they've featured some collections, but now you have the ability to narrow it down by county. The other option I wanted to focus on is this resources tab. So in this resources tab, this is where you're going to get some of that information that says that you find in the Family Search Wiki. So you can see Iowa Vital Records, which is our topic today, is available at this department. It holds birth and marriage records after 1st of July, 1880 and death records after 1891. Some earlier records may be available from the clerk of the county where the event was recorded. So what happened was the law changed that every county was supposed to collect birth and marriage records and death records, and they were supposed to send a copy to the state. And so that's why some of the clerk of county records may hold more if you look at the county records rather than at the state records, okay? But you can see here some other additional Iowa resources are listed here if you're interested in other things that are available to us for Iowa records. But this is here for every single state of the union. So if you go back to the map, you can pick the state where you're trying to do research, you're trying to figure out what's going on, in that space, or why you can't find your family because you've got this record that says they were born in Pennsylvania. You might want to come to the Pennsylvania information just to see what records are being stored where, that kind of thing, as well as you can peek into their collection list and see what Pennsylvania specific collections are available for the kinds of things that you're looking at. And this birth, marriage, death is vital records list. So that's how Ancestry provides those to us in a fairly organized way. But you can see that you can jump from here. You don't have to go back to the map. You can jump from here to Pennsylvania, or you can jump from here to, if you've got an international, a world or an all access, you can go to another collection. And even if you don't have a world or an all access collection, give it a try, because a lot of the indexes are still available for free on a guest pass or a US only pass. So just keep that in mind. Give it a try, if you want to go and look at, here's Canadian records. You can select by province. You can see they don't have the extra information here. This is just a collections list. They don't have that history that we have in the US. They don't have the additional records because you're just going straight to the collections. But you can see here, these are free even if you don't have a paid subscription. So just kind of look for those things that are free that might be of interest to you. And each of these only display a few, and then you can expand them out. They try to tell you how many more there are. I have found sometimes their counter isn't always accurate. So, play around with it a little bit. Okay. Let's see. I'm going to make sure I don't forget anything. And then the last thing I have to cover today is when you're doing, let's go ahead and go back. When you're looking through all of this stuff, Ancestry also, in addition to these resources, has the Academy. Now, the Academy is available if you come to, oh dear, I forgot how to get to the Academy. I think it's under here. Yeah. Under the question mark, you can go to the Ancestry Academy. These are available. You don't even have to be signed in to your Ancestry account. You don't even have to have an Ancestry account to use the Academy. This is available for free. You can see here it asks me to sign in, but you can just start browsing through here. I gave you the link in the handout to the Vital Records section. Just bounce into that. So I just wanted to show you that you can get to the Academy through the question mark, but you can also get to the Academy of just ancestryacademy.com and put that in your browser and end up here. The link for the Vital Records that's in the handout will show you that you have 8 collections. There's 14 videos. Load more. The thing I like about the Academy, if we go to the collections, is they're organized in a way that might make more sense to how you're looking for information. So maybe you've stumbled on some manuscripts and you want some help with that. Or maybe here's Pennsylvania specific and Illinois specific. But underneath here, I don't know if you guys can see that, but it says Church and Religious Records. There's 13 videos in that collection. There's education stuff. There's 10 videos. If you're big into trains, there's 11 videos in trains. So all of these are available for free, but you can see here that they also give you the amount of time. So if you're stuck waiting in line and you just want to watch a video on how to navigate stuff on Ancestry, these don't take a lot of time. They're a couple minutes, they're 5 or 6 minutes getting started with vital records. Several of these birth records, death records, marriages, treasury collections that you might not think about as a whole, kind of a thing. So just realize that this is also available to you as a way to quickly navigate. You can, some of them will be quite dated. I will give you that caveat on some of the Academy videos. You can also go to Ancestry's YouTube channel and do a search there. You can just search for genealogy stuff on YouTube and find other videos that might help you find those records, and you might find whether the record exists or not. So, there's those little tips and tricks kind of a thing. So that kind of wraps us up for today. It was a little shorter. I didn't dig into every single um, type of vital records because they all behave the same. So whether you go to the birth collection or whether you go to the marriage and divorce collection category, don't mean to make that, it's a category. Or if you go to the death, the categories all behave the same. Just the collections that are captured under that are different, and you still have the same filtering, you still have the same search capability on all of them. So I just wanted to point that out. Any questions on today's, vital, when I say vital records is a lot of stuff to cover, but because Ancestry does them so consistently between each of the categories, it's really helpful to just deep dive on one of them and then show you that they all behave about the same. Let's see. Let me check chat because I can't watch it while I'm presenting. Can I ask? Yes. Oh, okay. Anybody have any questions specific about vital records before I jump into something else? Okay. So Kathy asked about a couple questions about unaccept a hint. Yes, you can do that. So let's see. If I go to my tree, we want to go to, we'll just use my dad. That question. I'm going to go to his profile. So in the profile space, under the Hints tab, I'm going to go ahead and click on that. Close some of these other tabs just to improve my bandwidth a little bit. Okay, so under the Hints tab, anything you've accepted goes into accepted. And so you've accepted that hint, which means you've probably already added it to, let's see, an unaccepted hint. So on the accepted, let's see, you don't have a way to undo that. So let me, you want to click on the hint. Let's see. Let me think about this. So you've got some fact, so you know the hint that you want to unaccept, but you're going to have to go into your tree and remove the fact that got created with the hint. So that's where it gets a little sketchy. So if you say the obituary index fact, if you're in the facts list where it shows up, you can find the source. So let's just say I was looking for the obituary collection. If you click on that source, it will draw a line to the facts that it took from that source and put into your tree. So what you could do is you have to go into that fact and either remove the fact, or I think you can, let me see here. I can view that fact here, that collection here. And you can say, I can remove the source. So that all you're doing here is removing the source if you click it right here. So it says ancestry record, the collection, remove the source. And here's the citation details and the associated facts. So here's where you can go through and say, here's the facts associated with this obituary collection. So you'd have to find the one that was tied to the hint and just remove it from the tree. There isn't really an undo. There is an easier way if you ignore a fact, saying, "Oh, this isn't my person," and then you want to go back and accept it. That's a little easier because you go into your hints and you go to the ignored ones, and now you can review it and you can say don't ignore. Now, if you say don't ignore, it'll go back into the new list. And then you can review it and add it in if you want. So I hope that helps, Kathy.
Sherry, one note, when
Yep.
you're looking to decide whether you want to take a fact out, you need to check also the fact side, not just the source, to make sure it's not linked to anything else.
Right.
You have to look at both
And you
sides.
can see here when I clicked on this, this says, for my dad, all of these facts are tied to that collection, not necessarily that specific hint, right?
Yeah, you have
So
to
you
look
have
at,
to be really
you have to look
discreet
at
about what you're taking off.
yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Lisa. That was good. Let's see. Dean asks, why would I not be able to see that latest list when opening in my account? Oh, so that latest list is, if I go to home, it should show up in this right panel, right down here. It's under Tools and Resources, and it's called New and Updated Collections. Is that the one you're talking about, Dean? And then when you click on that, it will, well, I should have, and then it'll open like this. And that's one reason why I put that link for this page in the handout, so you can just click that link and get to this page. Is another way to get to this page. So, all right. Now, Tim, I'm glad you enjoyed this session today. I started doing that a little over a year ago, was adding those links to both this page and the collection in the handout so that you don't have to say, how did she do that? Because it's not intuitive. I don't think it's intuitive, even though they put it in the tools and resources. It's not where your eye goes, it's to that right panel. So, anybody have any other questions? All right, I'm going to stop sharing so I can see your faces. There we go.
Have a good trip, Sherry.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, we're starting to think about packing. We've got a new car than we used last year. So Craig wants me, took it in for its first oil change because it was a brand new. And they said I had uneven wear on tires. And I'm like, it's only got 3,000 miles on it. So then they came back and they said, no, it wasn't your car. But they added it to the service record. So we're going to take it into a tire place and have them double check it. Because when you're driving in the mountains, you don't want tire trouble. All right. Well, I hope you guys enjoy the spring weather that we have. My lilacs have finally bloomed. They were slow this year. In spite of all that early warm weather we had, go figure.
I did have a fun story.
Go ahead, Lisa.
Remember when Ancestry put all those English death records and probates
Mhm.
this new collection or new update, whichever it was?
Yep.
Well, I had one appear for the probate record. In other words, my fourth great grandfather's will showed up. Yes, and that was where he was in England, and my family, the rest of the son came over, and in itself was fairly unremarkable. I mean, he left everything to his second wife and one of her daughters, which I'm sure my grandfather got his portion when he left, and yeah, all that. But it was so cool. Oh my God, this is a will from 1844, and didn't think too much of it. But then I started with these, had a bunch of matches, which were Lawton, but a different spelling. and they came in Canada and down through. And I'm just, looking for how they connected because, we knew they were a family, their DNA matches. It's a cluster of them. Most of them only match me. My sister had two. None of my other DNA family that I compare to matched. My daughter didn't match. My dad's first cousins didn't match. I don't have dad's DNA, but and then I went back and read the will. And the executor of the will, he lists as his nephew, spelled the way he spelled the family name, and lists him as a farmer and in a little village that's like 2 miles from where he lives. And all of a sudden, it all made sense because I had contacted one of the cousins that didn't show a DNA match with me, but he had a decent tree. And he and I were kind of going back and forth. And this nephew listed in the will is Tom Lawton, Loten. And this cousin Tom Lawton had gone to Canada to live with his son. And it turns out that his father was Tom Andrew Lawton. Well, Andrew was the maiden name of the 5th great-grandfather's wife. And that was the clue we needed. This nephew was the nephew also of was the first cousin of my third time great-grandfather that came to New York. So we've got them placed on the tree now, and we know exactly how we're all related.
Oh, that's always so cool when you can connect the dots.
Yeah, it allowed us to make the connections and figure out. And I mean, I've got cousins on both sides of that spelling that are also related, so it places them exactly where they are, all because of one will.
Well, and it's that going back and reading it again, because I have Craig's second great-grandfather's divorce papers in Illinois in 1863. And I have the whole court case where he filed, and then he had to publish in the paper that he wasn't, she abandoned him was what the deal was. And I had read that will. I mean, I thought I had read the will, and I would take in a GPS class, and I'd use that person as my subject person. And because I kind of wanted to find out where she went after the divorce, because she had abandoned him, right? And it turns out if I had read it well enough, the divorce papers at the time, well, he claimed when he got married, and I've never found a marriage certificate for that. I'm still looking for that. But he says at the time of the divorce, she had abandoned him, and he had one living child. And I'm like, yeah, 3 kids. What do you mean at this period in time, when he finally did the filing, it was like, well, what happened to the rest of them? Well, we think what happened when you start adding all of that timeline up is the daughter had died in childbirth or shortly after childbirth. And so she's no longer alive. And Craig's great-grandfather was the only living child at that point, and the other son had died in the Civil War. So it was like, oh, okay. So we don't, and she's kind of fallen off the face of the earth. She filed for a mother's pension on the son that was killed in the war. And of course, the pension card doesn't say where she was filing from, so I don't know where she went. And they had moved to Illinois from Virginia, which became part of West Virginia right about the same time they moved. So, life gets, more confusing to try to chase it all down. But that's why we do these puzzles, right?
Yeah. Well, and we had a full family of my great-great-great-grandfather, the one that came over, but we didn't have we knew the name, but we didn't know where he fit. So we had to, had to do the very careful timing of births to see if this guy even fit. Because we knew his parents, to make it fit, he had to be the right age. And it took a lot of digging to find anything. We only had a 3-year window. So
Yeah.
it was a lot of deducting things and
Oh yeah, it's the puzzle we all chase down. So
Mhm.
I agree. Okay, for those of you joining me for our family tree maker, that'll be on the other class session. Have a great day. Enjoy the weather now that we've got some decent weather. It's not too hot and it's not too cold and it's not too wet. And
Bye.
I will see you guys in June, if not before.
Where are you going?
I'm going out to see my mom. My mom and my family in Spokane. So
Awesome. Have a
she
good
moved
time.
out there after Dad passed. My brother made her a deal that she couldn't turn down. He built her an ensuite in his basement. So she lives in his basement with her own space. And I'm really grateful for that as she's gotten a little more frail, not horrible. I mean, she has her own space and she does her own cooking and, she does her own thing. But it's just nice to know that she's in a good space. And she's the envy of all of her friends that are in, you know, assisted living or independent living or, because she's got family around all the time. So, and I have 3 of my 5 siblings live out there. So
Um,
it's kind of becomes a big deal when we go to visit.
that's great.
Yep.
Everybody.
All righty. See you guys.
Have fun out there, Sherry.
And we'll do.
Thanks, Sherry.
You're welcome.